this is Halo Combat Evolved, the first one. But I cannot shoot and I cannot take damage. Since this game has shooter even in this genre, I'm afraid this is going to be painful. The first level begins in the Pillar of Autumn, where we are introduced to the main characters. Captain Keyes, Cortana... No, not you, Windows, stop, I don't want your damn vocal assistant. Sarge, and us, Master Chief. They woke us up because there are enemies attacking. We have to do a tutorial, but luckily it does not involve test shooting because there's no time. For now we don't have a weapon, and since in this game we can only do melee attacks with a gun equipped, there isn't much we can do. I didn't actually discuss the rules of the challenge yet, but they are pretty simple. I can't take damage, but this does not mean I cannot get hit. This game has a shield and a health bar, and I consider damage only as health damage, because the shield can recharge itself. That's what I've seen most people do, so I run with it. I don't exclude a no-hit run in the future, but tell me in the comments what you think about it. As far as no shooting goes, I'll explain it as we go ahead. We avoid death a couple of times, and we reach Keyes. We take Cortana with us, and the captain gives us his gun. It's not loaded, but it's not a problem since we don't need bullets. Now that we have a weapon, we can't shoot, but we can use melee attacks. Most weak enemies will fall with 1 or 2 hits, but the real problem will be the elites. They deal a lot of damage and they have a shield like mine, so I have to hit them a lot of time to kill them. Thankfully, when I break their shield they get staggered and I can attack them for free, but for the time being I cannot fight 2 of them at the same time. We have to defeat the Covenant attacking our ship while we are trying to reach a lifeboat. If I take damage I have to reset to the previous checkpoint, and since I am a bit rusty this happened a couple of times in the first section. Well, maybe more than a couple. I managed to proceed with patience and thanks to the marines that are with me. And after we kill some more enemies I can find another shield. This gives me a shield that exceeds my previous limit but won't recharge. As you can probably figure, it's really useful. We kill some more Covenant. I go back for the second overshield, and by this point I have a fighting technique. Exit cover, attack the elites if they are alone, use my shield as much as I can and get back in cover before taking damage. This game does not spawn infinite enemies until you reach the next area, like Call of Duty does. So there are a limited amount of Covenant and you can win this war of attrition that kills a couple of them for every shield recharge. After having to cross some dark tunnels and breaking a door with a melee attack, I have to face the biggest challenge yet. There is a room with 2 elites that stay together, a good number of enemies, I have no marines, and I must defeat them in order to proceed unscathed. I managed to do it relatively easily and I can proceed, but shortly after an explosion in the ship damages me and I have to restart from the checkpoint. And there is supposed to be a checkpoint between the 2 areas, but you have to understand how Halo's checkpoint system works. Poorly. So I have to do this section all over again and it took me a lot more time than previously. But if I show you every time I died in this run, this will be a hour-long video. So from now on I will cut short my failures, but remember that they were here. I mean, I will show some of them, just not 40 minutes of me dying against a couple of elites. I play aggressively and I manage to kill one in melee while the other attacks me from a distance. And from there I can proceed. I avoid getting hurt in an explosion and after some more bashing and a lucky checkpoint I manage to find some grenades. I can hear you say, "Wait Francis, but you said no shooting, how come?" Here we are, I can welcome you to the first edition of Is It Considered Shooting? We have a tough question, so listen carefully. Is throwing a grenade considered shooting? No, it is not! I was sure you would get this right, champ! And back to the video. After the worst grenade throwing of my life, I decide to end it with a feast. We reach the lifeboat and the first level, the Pillar of Autumn, is over. Our lifeboat crashed on the ring planet and the second level, that is called Halo, just to have that pinch of confusion, begins. Everybody died on the lifeboat but us, and since we don't have a seatbelt, and we weigh at least 1000 kilos, I think we should be responsible for a good portion of the death. But we don't have time to think about it since the Covenant are on our tail. We get shot by some Banshees and there is a patrol up ahead, but the best course of action is to ignore them and reach the next area. We don't get a checkpoint until we defeat the enemies that come from this dropship. I managed to do it with some luck and some patience. We are united with some marines, but we have to kill Covenant coming from 4 different dropships. Thankfully each one has its own checkpoint and we have plenty of plasma grenades. We loot them from dead enemies and they stick to whoever they hit, so we have an easy and effective way to kill elites without risking too much. Enemies defeated, we get into a Warthog with a Marine as the gunner, and we go to rescue some more allies. If you think my driving is bad, that's because you can change direction by moving the camera, and since I'm playing with the mouse and keyboard, this isn't the easiest task. Welcome back for Is It Considered Shooting? This time we have a double question on our hands, so stay strapped to your seat. Is driving somewhere over considered shooting? If someone with you in the car is shooting, are you considered shooting? Ding ding ding! That's the correct answer! And now, back to you, Francis. Yeah, thanks. This section is fairly easy. We drive to a location where we have to rescue our allies. Our gunner takes down most of the enemies while I either circle around or try to get some road kills. The marines we have to rescue help us a bit and we have to defeat some waves of enemies coming from dropships. We have to do this in 3 different places. Then we are informed that Captain Keyes is held hostage in a Covenant ship. So the level ends with us jumping on the Pelican on our way to rescue him. The next level begins on foot with a bunch of marines, on our way to board a ship. This first section is supposed to be a semi-stealth one, and they give you a sniper, but there are way too many enemies to be able to kill them in melee without being noticed, so hell breaks loose basically as soon as we set foot on the ground. The marines with us do most of the work, we just have to stay in cover and kill some enemy here and there. But we can still take damage from grenades they throw, so sometimes this happens. Here we can see some enemies using turrets, and they can be a problem since we can only damage them with grenades, so we have to keep some spare at all times. All in all, this isn't that hard thanks to our allies, and we can easily clear the first 2 areas. We can find an upgrade, similar to the Overshield, that will only last for a limited time but will grant us partial invisibility. This is great because every melee attack that hits an enemy from the back will kill them in one hit, and we can use this to make quick work of any elites we find. When I reach the gravity lift I am alone, and we have to kill some waves of enemy here, but after a couple of trials I properly managed my grenades and I have to face the hunters. These tank-like enemies always come in a pair of 2 and can only be damaged by attacking their back or their neck. It will seem like a difficult task, but if you get near them they try to stab you and it's a slow and easily dodgeable attack that leaves their back exposed. It takes some hits, but they eventually die. Hunters defeated, a Pelican arrives with some reinforcements and we board the ship. Here we face for the first time a sword-wielding enemy, and they are even partially invisible. They are very tough since we die if we get hit even once, and I don't think there is a reliable way to beat them with melee, but we can stick a plasma grenade to their armor and watch them explode. First we defeat some enemies, then we go alone ahead to unlock a door. Here we have mostly narrow corridors, so it's easy to reach the enemies and hit them, and at the same time a well-placed grenade will leave them no place to run. We proceed farther into the ship with the squad, until we reach an hangar where there are enemies upstairs, that we obviously can't kill. Thankfully we can proceed even if they're alive, but in the process we lose most of our allies. We have to kill a couple more hunters, there are even more corridors to clear from enemies, but this is an almost ideal fighting space, so I don't sweat it. There are 2 tough rooms full of elites, but this game has a good amount of checkpoints, so I can try again with these. And after some time I managed to stick the last grenade and we can free Captain Keyes and other prisoners. From there we only have to run back to the hangar, take a dropship and the level ends. We begin the silent cartographer on a Pelican, ready to drop on a beach with a bunch of marines. Our objective is to search for a map room here on Halo, in order to find Halo's control center. With the marines we have so much firepower that we can let them deal with the Covenant, but our enemies have an insidious trick. They sometimes use the plasma pistol, or more correctly the Type 25 directed energy pistol, a gun that can shoot a charge shot that will instantly deplete our shields. And since we are in the middle of enemy fire most of the time, we will get hit by something else shortly after, and thus we have to reset. They don't always shoot the charge shot, and there are way too many enemies wielding these guns, so it's not like you can plan for it. If you get hit, accept it and try again. Despite this, we manage to capture the shore, so we jump on a Warthog and we proceed. This level now will consist of driving to a location, defeating some enemies on foot, and driving to the next location. But we can maximize the time we spend on the car to make our job easier. We get to the location of the cartographer, we blow up some Covenant, but we get closed off by a security system. We jump back on the car to disable said security, but we will have to proceed on foot shortly after, I am pretty sure you can force your car through here, but I didn't want to waste too much time trying to break the game. Up ahead we have to fight 2 hunters, but there are 2 overshields and we can simply dash with them for a bit. A couple of dodges and we win. We defeat some more enemies and some more hunters and we can shut down the security system. So time to go back. We don't take the same road as before, instead we circle around the place. We can take yet another overshield, then we have to ignore the missile launcher for obvious reasons. We flip a Warthog and we can use it to get to the shore first and then to the place that was previously inaccessible. Here it's pretty easy, probably because we are doing this as it's intended. Most enemies are sleeping and we can take them out without being noticed. And remember that a melee attack to the back is always a one-hit kill. After we take down the first enemies we have to kill 2 hunters, and they obviously notice us. But then it's time for another stealth section, where we even have the partial invisibility and an overshield. So it's a cakewalk. We access the cartographer and find the location of the command center. So we only have to get back out, defeat the sword-wielding enemy that was foreshadowed before with a plasma grenade, and when we enter the Pelican, the level ends. We have the coordinates for the command center, but there is a small problem. They are underground. Luckily our pilot doesn't have a fear in the world, she flies us down there and the assault on the control room begins. This level can be very slow if you try to defeat all the enemies, but from now on my strategy will be to simply run past enemies, and that's what I do here. We have to proceed inside the Halo's cave system, so first we have to cross a room, then keep in mind this design because there are like 40 more rooms like this in the rest of the game. Then we have to cross a bridge, and I choked a bit against the sword-wielding enemy we find at the end, but I managed to defeat him with a well-placed grenade. Then, after some more corridors, we reach an open field, where some marines are facing the Covenant. I tried to give the marines here a missile launcher we can find on the ground, but then I remember this is the first Halo and they didn't introduce this feature yet, so we jump on the Warthog and drive straight forward. We can find a tank up ahead, but using it is the wrong choice because... oh no, he's coming back. Welcome to Is It Considered Shooting? This is the last question for the day, so be sure to get it right. Is firing a tank considered shooting? Oh, it is considered shooting! I can't say I knew this one. This was our last question for this episode. Be sure to catch the next ones. I'm as annoyed by it as you probably are. What was I saying? Oh right. The tank is useless because we can shoot and we are really slow, so the right choice is to use the Warthog, or even better a Ghost, to drive around dodging missiles. We have to get down the vehicle to open a door a couple of times, and we have to get a bit lucky because most heavy attacks will blow us up, but it's easily doable. Also, we can always choose to run someone over if they are a problem. Please don't take this out of context. Now the level becomes a bit repetitive. We drive outside again, then we have to ditch our vehicle, but there is a camouflage so we don't have to sweat it too much. Then I managed to do a trick that only the best players are able to do. I stick a plasma grenade to myself because it bounces off a wall. And I have to reset. Then we have to cross a lot of rooms and some bridges. I think the developers intended for you to defeat the enemies there, but we can walk straight and ignore them. Sure, sometimes you can get unlucky and get hit one too many times, but when the checkpoints work, there is one at the end of every room, so resetting doesn't set you back that much. There are even arrows on the ground pointing us to the right direction. After this we commandeer a Banshee and fly around. I get crashed by my own vehicle like a fool, then we can proceed inside a building and we finally reach Halo's control center. We insert Cortana into the system, and we discover that there is something that even the Covenant are afraid of. Buried deep into this ring planet. And the captain is going directly to it, thinking it's a weapon stash. So we leave Cortana there and we rush to stop him. And so, 343 Guilty Spark begins. A thing I didn't disclose yet is that I am playing the anniversary edition of the game, where they remastered both sound and graphics. I won't spend much time talking about why it's a terrible job because it's an old story and there are plenty of videos on this matter on YouTube, but I decided to show the remastered graphics because I think they could appeal more to the casual viewer. For this level, though, allow me to play with the original graphics, not because they look necessarily better, but because the remaster looks like a Hollywood set and not a scary and grimy swamp. We find one of our pelicans crushed in a swamp and we hear a distress call. There are a couple of enemies here, but nothing to be worried about. We proceed until we find a building, where we can see bullets flying towards our enemies but without any marines in sight. We go deeper with the lift, and we have to defeat some more Covenant, until we find a Marine that has gone mad and tries to shoot at us. We keep on walking, and we find the corpse of one of our allies. We watch what was recorded on his helmet, and we can see Captain Keyes, Sarge, and a bunch of Marines opening a door and being attacked by some strange looking aliens. That will be called Flood from now on, while we can hear that other groups are being attacked by the same thing. The recording ends, and we are attacked ourselves by the Flood. There are mainly 4 types of Flood. These round-shaped ones, a blob-like type that will explode when near us, one resembling a Covenant elite and one resembling a Marine. And by resembling I mean that it's literally a Marine infested by the Flood. We can kill with these only the first type, because the others either explode or take around 15 attacks to die, so our strategy will consist in running away from them. The smaller ones may seem dangerous because there are always a lot of them, but they don't deal a lot of damage to our shields and die in the process, and also with one blow we can kill more than one, so they aren't really a problem. In this room we have to slay a bunch of them in order to proceed, but then we have no reason to fight. The place is infested with Flood. We will occasionally encounter a Covenant group fighting them, but all we have to do is go back out into the swamp. We run and jump around and we can avoid damage almost always, and in any case we can reset, so this part is pretty easy. We reach the lift we used before, but it goes down instead of going back up. This is a challenge run with somebody talking over it, but I can assure you that if you actually play the game, this level hits you emotionally. Here we can find an overshield, and from now on it's a cakewalk. We get hit from time to time, but we brush it off. And after some more corridors we take another lift and we return back to the swamp, where we can find some Marines that survived the onslaught. We proceed together in the swamp in order to reach an extraction point where our Pelican can rescue us. And if you know where to go, you don't even have to fight. When we get teleported on a tower by the monitor of the installation, 343 Guilty Spark. They say that they need us to defeat the Flood, so the level ends with us teleported again. Now the library begins, a quite infamous level where 343 guides us around the installation, while we are constantly attacked by the Flood. This is basically half an hour when you have to walk in these large corridors that look all the same, and you either have to follow 343 while they say something annoying, or you have to wait for them to unlock a door, trying to survive. Melee is not effective at all against the Flood, so there are only 2 things we can do to kill them. We either throw a bomb, or we get near the exploding ones and then run away, so that they blow up and damage the others in the process. We will need both these methods to proceed, but still, thinking about killing all the enemies here is basically impossible. So we do what we do best. We run from them and hope we don't get hit too much. That is basically all there is to this level, and if you get unlucky and get hit too much, you restart and hope that the previous checkpoint wasn't that far back, because here they are quite rare. There are some resources we can find around, like an overshield and some grenades, that you can also take from dead enemies, so it's not only walking straight. I know some of you expected to see more footage of this level since it's considered a tough one, but it's literally only me jumping for 30 minutes. The only thing I can add is that near the ending of the level we can fight the Flood wielding a rocket launcher. They are obviously lethal, so we can only hope that we manage to dodge the shot, or that they blow themselves up on accident. The other hard section is when you are in very narrow corridors against exploding enemies, but you can reasonably manage to either jump over them, blow them up with a grenade, or bait them into exploding. Oh, and for a little section we have these flying sentries that attack with lasers on our side. They will become relevant later. Guilty Spark talks to us about how this planet, Halo, is a weapon to get rid of the Flood built by the Forerunners, the legendary civilization that lived the universe before us. But they kept some samples of the Flood for research purposes. Our objective is to take the index, that is basically a key, and activate the weapon before they spread too much into the galaxy. And if you were wondering, the 343 Industries, the ones that split from Bungie and made Halo from Halo 4 onward, are named after 343 Guilty Spark. This is literally all I could say about this level, that ends with us finding the index and 343 taking it, then teleporting us both to the control room in order to activate the weapon. We begin 2 betrayals, with us trying to activate Halo and Cortana coming in clutch and stopping us. If you remember, we left her in the control center. Turns out that what Halo does is wipe out the galaxy of all the sentient life so that the Flood will starve to death, and that includes us. And apparently 343 forgot to tell us. They can't activate it on their own though, since they don't have the required classification, but Guilty Spark won't need much time to find someone to do their dirty work. Also, activating Halo probably counts as shooting, and I can't do it for obvious reasons. They still need the index, so 343 teleports away and some sentinels attack us. This will be the most annoying enemy in the game, because they melt through our shield and they keep on floating around, so it's very hard to hit them. It took me a long time to realize that I don't need to destroy them, but I can simply open the door and run forward. But here there are even more sentinels and a Covenant patrol, and it's basically impossible for us to kill them all without wasting an hour or more. After 20 minutes of trials, I managed to let the Covenant attack the sentinels and vice versa, while I got lucky enough that a good number of shots missed me and I was able to open the second door and proceed. This is probably the level foreshadowing how much it's going to suck with these conditions. Our plan is to blow up the fusion cores of the Pillar of Autumn and thus destroy Halo, but we need to locate it first. In the meantime, we are afraid that 343 will be able to activate Halo even without the index, so we have to jam Halo's firing system in order to get us some time. And this is basically what this level consists of, blowing up 3 different generators. First we have to commandeer a Banshee, but there are way too many enemies around, not to mention a tank, and trying to fight them would be a suicide, so I had to try it many times, over and over, to reach it, hoping I wouldn't get shot too much. With some well-placed grenades, hiding in a trench and some good amount of luck, I can fly away towards the first generator. We land, and Cortana informs us that the way we will shut them down is by walking into them. This will release an EMP but will completely drain our shield. And since having no shield means that we take damage if we get hit, you can probably guess where this is going. The first one, though, is unprotected, so 1 down and 2 to go. We fly back out towards the second one, and in the process we meet the first Covenant wielding a rocket launcher. Needless to say, if we get hit, we are toast. To reach the next generator we have to walk through all the rooms we did a couple of levels ago, but in reverse and with more enemies. The technique of ignoring them still works, and that's what I do. A small adjustment that I have to make is that since these rooms are quite dangerous, I have to be sure to get a checkpoint in between them, and I don't actually know for sure how it works. But there are some loading spots in the corridors where if certain conditions are met, like not being in combat, we get a checkpoint. So I had to walk through some corridors back and forth a couple of times until I read checkpoint done. Again, I'm not sure why it works, but it does work. The more we proceed, the more we find Flood fighting Covenant. And that's good for us, because it means that not all the bullets will fly towards us. We cross some bridges and we get out. It's exactly the same road we did before, so I won't spend much time here. I steal a ghost and I manage to shove it through some pillars. I am pretty sure this isn't intended, but this will save us some time. We drive until we find a Banshee, and then we fly to the second generator. Here we find Flood fighting some sentinels, and for some reason as soon as they see us they will aggro on us and attack us. I have to run to the generator and shut it down, but it depletes our shields and if we get hit we have to restart. I managed to shut it down and avoid being hit long enough so that the shield starts recharging. But as soon as we do that, a bunch of Flood come out of the door we need to exit from. And since the room is full of enemies, there is no checkpoint. I thought about taking it slowly, but this would mean killing the sentinels with my fists, and I can assure you it's one of the most frustrating things that I have ever done in a video game. So it's a no-go. After 30 minutes of trying, learning timings and praying RNGesus so that I wouldn't get hit, I had a couple of lucky grenades that wiped out most of the Flood. I caught the opportunity and killed the remaining ones with my fists, a process that is really slow but doable, while a single Flood with a rocket launcher wasn't aggroed on me and destroyed the sentinels. I killed him, got my checkpoint, and from there I could blow up the remaining Flood and fly out of there. I head for the last generator, but there are a lot of enemies with rockets, so my dodges have to be on point. I push through, and after a malfunctioning door that forces me to proceed on feet and a Flood ambush, I can get out on the snow for the final push. I am in an open field, enemies everywhere, and I am on feet. At the other side of the canyon there is a Banshee that I have to drive. I have to manage my bombs carefully, because I don't have many and I need them later, but with the right explosions I manage to make my way through and steal a ghost. This cuts a good chunk of this section, but there are plenty of enemies with rocket launchers, so I have to be careful. Here I am pretty sure you're supposed to ditch your vehicle and proceed on foot, but I managed to run through it enough times and I cross it. Now I only have to dodge some rockets, jump in the Banshee and reach the final generator. There are only sentinels defending this, but you have to avoid being hit for only a couple of seconds because the mission will end. So I jump into the room, lose my shields, and I manage to dodge the lasers long enough. The level ends with this fade to white and then a black screen. I didn't edit this part, and you can clearly see that I remain at full HP the whole time. Cortana teleports us away, and we have to find Captain Keyes because he has the code needed to blow up the Pillar of Autumn. We find this signal in a nearby Covenant ship, and Keyes begins. The captain actually calls us and tells us to go back, while in great pain, but we don't care much about it. The level begins in a ship, but shortly after we jump down a hole and proceed on foot. We have a camouflage for a significant portion of this section that makes things easy. All around us, Covenant and Flood are fighting, so we can proceed almost unnoticed. There are some hard corridors where we basically get ambushed by a bunch of enemies, but knowing it beforehand means we can solve it with a well-placed grenade. We can find an overshield that will be important later, and we make our way back into the ship with a gravity lift. Now we need to reach the ship's control room, where we think Keyes is supposed to be. This part mimics the earlier sections in the Truth and Reconciliation, only that the Flood are way more aggressive and are to defeat with melee than the Covenant. I had to make my way through trial and error. We don't have many grenades and there are some corridors where we are basically forced to use one. So the strategy is to try and push through, avoiding enemies a couple of times, and if you can't make it, then throw a grenade and hope for the best. This section was tough and a bit frustrating. We don't have many checkpoints because of the sheer amount of enemies, but wasting a grenade to kill some and have a checkpoint could mean that you will need one later and you have to start from the beginning. So I basically had to do a third of the level without checkpoints. And I can assure you, these elite Floods hit hard. With enough luck we can push through. Meanwhile the captain keeps screaming in pain and telling us to go away. We have to clear the room where the captain is, but I had enough resources to do it. I had to finish off the last enemies with melee, but that's it. Also, I got a checkpoint in this room while I was in the middle of combat, so that's cool. We find the captain, fused with some corpses, part of the Flood conglomerate. We decide to take the code anyway, and that counts as a melee kill, so I'm good with it. Now we have to make it out of here alive and blow up the Pillar of Autumn. And the biggest challenge was getting out of this room. A bunch of Flood attack us as soon as the cutscene ends, and there are a lot of Covenant soldiers, freshly spawned, outside our only way out. After some trials I managed to pass through using, guess what? A grenade. Well, that and some luck with the two forces shooting at each other. Out of here we are back into the shuttle bay, so we can jump down, a floor at a time, steal a Banshee, and the level ends. And so, the Maw, our last level, begins. We reach the Pillar of Autumn and we find it infested by both Flood and Covenant. After a couple of easy fights we reach the control room and start the self-destruct sequence, but we find out that 343 was watching our steps all the way in, and they blocked the self-destruction. We have only one way to proceed, and that is blowing it up manually. Luckily we can use grenades in this challenge run, right? The cutscene ends and we get instantly attacked by sentinels, and we know I can't and won't fight them, so I run away. This part of the level isn't that hard, the ship is full of enemies, but since they are Flood and sentinels they will attack each other most of the time and we can slip through. If we get aggroed we can hide behind one of the many corners in the ship, in order to regenerate our shields and let them fight each other. We make our way through the ship, we find an overshield and we can even enter the armory. Too bad we can't use any of these weapons, it's almost as if they are here for a purpose. We reach the engine room, and we have to blow up the 4 fusion cores. We do it by first pressing a monitor that will unlock the core, and then by chugging a grenade right in the opening between the vents. All the while some sentinels bother us, and a couple of Floods try to skin us alive. I won't show all the time I lost here, but let's just say that when I managed to do it I couldn't miss a grenade even if I wanted to. Also, you could use a rocket launcher to blow them up, but for obvious reasons, we can't. The pattern is, interact with the monitor, jump down and throw the grenade, make your way back up, rinse and repeat. There are no checkpoints here, but I found out that if I get back in the corridor before the room, I can enter a loading zone and after some back and forth, I get a checkpoint. So there are some, but they aren't intentional. I also only have 5 grenades with 4 cores to blow up. And when I reach the last reactor, I slip down while I throw my grenade. Call it luck, call it skill, what is sure is that the core blew up and I can get out of there. The ship is going to blow up and with it Halo, so I have a limited amount of time to get to the extraction point. In this last section I have to drive a Warthog, and since there is no shooting involved, it's not hard at all. I run over some enemies, sometimes the car flips, but I can make it where the Pelican has to land and pick me up. And I guess I'll need another way out. I drive until the passage is blocked, so I have to go on foot in a barrage of projectiles, but at last I jump on a ship and manage to fly away before Halo is destroyed. And with this I say that you can beat Halo Combat Evolved without shooting and without taking damage. As Master Chief says, we are just getting started, since there are like 5 more Halo games to do this way. But anyway, if you did the challenge yourselves, let me know how it went in the comments, and if you enjoyed the video, leave a like or even subscribe. I'll see you next time. Well, you'll see me. See the video at least. Why do I always mess up the outro?
Halo. It's finished.
No. I think we're just getting started.